Hey, it's Farron of Farron Celeste, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use the Cactus Valentine's Day card in Cricut Design Space. First, you want to download the SVG file and save it onto your computer. Then open up Cricut Design Space and click on New Project, click Upload Image, click Browse, and then locate where you saved the SVG file. It'll be Farron Celeste Cactus Valentine card.svg. Click on it and then click Open. Click Save. Now it'll appear under your recently uploaded images, so click on the image and then click Insert Images. The first thing you want to do is ungroup. Come over to your Layers panel. Underneath where it says Layers, click on where it says Ungroup. Now click on the copyright, come back over to your Layers panel, you'll see it's highlighted here. Click on the eyeball next to it to hide that layer so it's no longer in our project. Let's work with the card inserts first. The inserts are these white pieces that will go on the inside of the card, and this is so you can customize these pieces with some wording on them using your Cricut. So the first option to do that is to use the draw option. So I know this looks crazy right now with these O's filled in, but this will correct itself in a second. So the draw option is where you put a pen into your Cricut and it'll literally draw the words onto the white paper. So to program that, just click on where it says I'm stuck on you here. Come up to line type. Under the drop down menu, you want to change that to draw, and you'll see it will correct the words here. So what will happen is the Cricut will sketch out and draw the letters as they are shown here. Now you've got this selected, so what you want to do is come over to your Layers panel and you want to hold down Shift on your keyboard and then click on the white cactus layer underneath it, and that will select both where it says I'm stuck on you and the cactus underneath it, and click Attach. Now I'm just going to click and drag and move this over to the side. So this is set to go if you want to, again, use the Cricut pens to draw your lettering on. Now the other option you could have done, instead of selecting draw, you could choose the foil option. Let me actually undo this so you can see what I'm talking about. If you click on the drop down menu under line type and change that to foil, if you have the Cricut foil adapter, you could actually create this with a gold foil or whatever colorful foil you have. There's all sorts of different options. I don't have the foil tool yet, so I can't exactly demo that, but the process should be the same. So for now, I'm just going to put it back on draw. I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard, click on the cactus white shape underneath it, and click Attach. So if you chose the foil option, those steps would be the same as far as attaching the wording onto your cactus. So that tells the Cricut where to draw or where to do the foil, and then to know to cut the shape perfectly around that. So this is option 1 with your text. The next option is to do a print then cut. Before I walk you through the steps of that, I just want to show you one thing. You do not have to use this phrase at all, the I'm stuck on you phrase. All you have to do to get rid of it is click on it, come over to your Layers panel, find it in the Layers panel, you'll see it's highlighted, and click on the eyeball next to it to hide it. That way you can just cut a blank white cactus if you want to handwrite a note, or where you can add your own text and create your own custom message. So I just wanted to show you that. Now I'm going to turn that layer back on to show you the print then cut. Now I'm going to show you how to do the print then cut. All you have to do is click and drag to highlight to select the I'm stuck on you and the white cactus behind it. You can also do that by grabbing them in the Layers panel like we did earlier, and then click flatten. This turns it into a print then cut image. So for print then cut, you will need a home printer, and on the next screen it'll prompt you to put white 8.5 by 11 cardstock into your home printer. You'll print it out, and then you'll use your Cricut to cut the cactus shape exactly around where we printed our words, and I'll show you that option here in a second. So now we have both of our insert options ready to go. For right now, I recommend just turning them off. So to do that, I'm going to come over to my layers panel where it says flatten. That's my print thin cut option. I'm going to click on the eyeball next to it to hide it for right now. And I'm going to click on my draw option, come over to the layers panel where it says attach. I'm going to click on the eyeball to hide it for just right now. And I'll show you the next screens on those after we cut all of our other pieces. So I want to show you how the rest of these pieces are going to work. First, you have this double cactus shape. This is going to be the card itself, and we're going to fold it in half. To do that, I've created a score line for you here. You do this using the Cricut scoring stylus. If you don't have a scoring stylus, just click on the line, come and find it in your layers panel, and you can just click on the eyeball next to it to hide that line. And then when you cut this shape, you can just fold it in half by yourself. To add the score line, I'm going to turn it back on. I'm going to click on the line, come up to line type, and under the drop down menu, I'm going to change that to score. Now I'm going to click and drag to highlight the cactus or cacti and the score line and click attach. So this tells the Cricut to put that score line right in the middle and then cut the cactus shapes around it. So you want to cut this from a normal weight, like an 80-pound or greater thickness cardstock from a dark green. The rest of the shapes, you can also use the same thickness of cardstock, with the exception of I recommend our little white detail pieces to cut those from a lighter weight cardstock, a text weight more like a 65-pound or about 120 grams or so. I found it was a little bit easier to create the heart shapes on the cactus with the lighter weight cardstock, but whatever you have should work okay too. So our detail pieces, you'll see these light green shapes. These are going to cut. We're going to cut these from a light green cardstock. I do recommend using 2 different color greens. It just makes the card pop a little bit more. And then these are the white shapes I was talking about that work better if you cut them from a text weight cardstock. And then you've got your little flower detail pieces, your little petals for your flower, and this little center piece. So the colors of these shapes are just determined by whatever color piece of cardstock you place on your mat and put in your Cricut. So there's flexibility there. You can cut these from whatever colors you want. You do not have to stick with the colors I chose. They're just color coordinated to give you a visual based on what I use to make this card. So let's go ahead and cut all these shapes first. So all you have to do is click Make It. The Cricut is smart and it organizes everything for you by color. So it auto defaults to a 12 by 12 paper size. If you're using a different size paper, all you have to do is click on the drop down menu underneath the mat number 1 and change that to 8.5 by 11, for example. And you just would want to change that for each one of your colors if you're using a different colored piece or a different size piece of paper. I'm just going to undo that, put these back on 12 by 12 just for this demonstration. So now let's go ahead and click continue. So it's going to start with mat number 1, and that is prompting you to go ahead and cut your white paper first. So remember, these shapes I'm cutting from a thinner weight cardstock. So what I'm going to do is place my white paper on my mat, and you need to tell your Cricut what kind of material you're using. So I have my cut setting set to light cardstock. I do that by adjusting the dial on my machine because I have a Cricut Explore Air. If you're the maker, I think you just tell it the cut setting in here somewhere. So I've got it set on light cardstock. I've got my white paper on my mat. I'm going to load my mat into my machine by pressing on the flashing arrow button. Once the mat is loaded, press on the flashing go button to start cutting. Once the machine is done cutting, you press on the flashing arrow button again to unload your mat, and then you'll just peel your excess paper and all of your pieces off your mat. And then it will automatically move on to mat number 2. And you'll know it's ready to cut mat number 2 because it will be highlighted. So see how this is in white now because I clicked on it? It'll go ahead and move on to mat number 2. Now, this is a more intricate cut. So if you have issues with the machine tearing your paper, an option is to put it on the custom intricate setting. So to do that, you're going to put your dial on custom settings. And then if you click on browse all materials and under cardstock, you can click on this option cardstock for intricate cuts and click done. This can be a helpful cut setting for those more intricate cuts. This could also be a helpful cut setting for your yellow center on mat number 3. So the steps are the same in between each cut, just putting whatever color piece of paper is next on your mat, telling the Cricut what material you're using, and cutting out your shapes. The difference is when you get to mat number 5, which is our card. When you get to mat number 5, it's going to prompt you to place your scoring stylus into clamp A if you have the scoring or the score line programmed. So for this cut, I'm going to put my material setting on cardstock because I'm using a normal weight cardstock for this cut, and I'm going to load my scoring stylus into clamp A. Then once you've got your green paper on your mat, you've got your scoring stylus in your machine, you'll just repeat those same steps of pressing the flashing arrow button to load your mat to your machine, let the machine cut, press the arrow button to unload the mat once the machine is done cutting, and you'll just peel your excess paper and all of your shapes off your mat. So let's pretend like we have all of our shapes cut. I'm going to click on cancel to get back to my design screen. And I want to show you how to do the inserts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide everything that is currently on my screen that we've already cut. So I'm already selected here on my white shape. So I'm going to come over here and find them in my layers panel. And I'm going to click on the first eyeball of the group and it'll hide them all at once. I'm going to do the same thing on the light green shapes. Click on them, find it in the layers panel, click on the first eyeball. It'll hide all those shapes at once. Click on the green, come up to the layers panel and click on the first eyeball in the group. Same thing for the flower, and then let's hide that flower middle piece. Now I'm going to turn on my, next to where it says flatten, I'm going to turn that back on, and I'm going to turn it back on where it says attach, where we've got our draw and cut. All right, so I recommend just have the one turned on that you are working with, whether it's the print and cut or the draw option. I just have them both on so I can show you what they look like when you move on to the next screen. For this white paper, I did use a thicker piece of white cardstock just to give your card a little bit of support in the middle. But again, you have some flexibility with the weights of the cardstock. It should work fine, really, regardless of what weight you use. So let's go ahead and click Make It. So the first option is the print and cut option. You'll know that because it's going to create this dark black box around your wording. These are the registration marks. This is what the Cricut will read to know to cut in the right place so that way your cactus lines up around your wording. So let's go ahead and click continue just so I can prompt you with the print and cut. So what you'll do is you'll click send to printer, and where it says add bleed, just turn that off because we don't have color on this shape. Now, I do like to turn this use system dialog on. I'm going to click on that and click print. This will open up your advanced printer settings. I like to put my print quality on best. Depending on your printer, that also might look like changing it to high quality. It just gives you a better quality print. For something like this where the letters are just pretty simple, it doesn't matter a whole lot, but it's a good tip if you're doing prints in the future that have a lot more color or detail to it. So from there, all you have to do is click print, and you'll place your white 8.5 by 11 cardstock into your printer. It will go ahead and print out exactly what you see here. And then once it's printed, you want to place your paper on your mat exactly like it's shown here in the preview screen. This is important so that way those registration marks line up where the Cricut thinks they're going to be. So from there, it's just the same steps. You'll just load your mat into your machine by pressing on the flashing arrow button, let the machine cut, and then you'll just unload your mat and take your pieces off the mat once it's done cutting. Now, to move on, let's say we're doing the draw option, and click on mat number 2. So with this option, you will place your Cricut pin in clamp A. We used the clamp A in the previous part to put our scoring stylus in, but instead you'll just load a Cricut pin. So when you do that, All you have to do is just place your white paper on your mat like is shown here in the preview screen. Once you load your mat into your machine, the Cricut will automatically draw those letters out and then cut your cactus shape all at the same time. So let's pretend like I'm done. So I'm going to click cancel just to get back to my main screen. It's always a good idea to save your project. So to do that, you just click on save. You can give your project a name and then click save. There is another tutorial. If you go back into the material guide and click on the link, there's an assembly tutorial where I'll show you how to put the cactus card together now that all of our pieces are cut.